In every human relationship, there will be moments of disagreement, misunderstanding, and emotional tension. These moments are inevitable because no two people are exactly alike in thought, personality, or emotional response. But in those moments, a man's ability to remain composed becomes one of his greatest strengths. Emotional composure is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of feeling. It is the ability to stand in the middle of a storm without allowing the storm to take control of you. A man who can hear difficult words without responding in haste, who can endure provocation without giving in to an outburst, sends a clear message. He is not easily moved by circumstances. Women, whether they consciously articulate it or not, are drawn to men who can remain grounded when everything else feels unsettled. There is something deeply reassuring about knowing that someone you are connected to will not crumble under emotional pressure. In moments of conflict, when emotions are high, a man who can speak calmly and listen without jumping to defend himself communicates that he values truth over winning an argument. His focus is not on proving himself right, but on protecting peace. This kind of composure makes a woman feel safe, even if she disagrees with his perspective. The reason this composure is so attractive is because it reflects strength at a deeper level. Many people mistake strength for aggression or dominance, but true strength is the ability to remain unshaken. A man who reacts to every word or action with agitation reveals that his emotions are easily controlled by others. But a man who remains steady shows that he governs himself. That governance is rare, and what is rare is always valuable. When a man does not allow himself to be manipulated by emotion, whether it is flattery or insult, he demonstrates that his sense of worth comes from within, not from outside affirmation. This does not mean a man should be distant or unfeeling. Emotional composure is not about shutting down or refusing to engage. It is about being present without being consumed. It is about being able to step back in your mind and consider the bigger picture before speaking or acting. When a woman sees that a man can absorb her frustration, disappointment, or intense emotion without collapsing or retaliating, she sees a man who is emotionally safe to trust. That safety fosters deeper connection because it creates an environment where emotions can be expressed without fear of chaos in return. Composure also communicates self-respect. A man who refuses to let his emotions be dictated by the heat of the moment is a man who values his own peace. That value is contagious. People naturally begin to mirror the stability they witness. A woman who encounters that level of steadiness begins to feel her own anxieties settle in his presence. Without even realizing it, she begins to seek out that calmness because it makes her feel more secure in herself. In contrast, when a man lacks composure, small disagreements can escalate into unnecessary conflicts. His inability to control his reactions can cause both parties to lose perspective. Words spoken in the heat of anger can damage trust, and emotional volatility can make a woman feel unsafe in expressing herself. Over time, that instability pushes people away. But when composure is present, trust is strengthened, and emotional connection becomes deeper, not shallower. In times of challenge, emotional composure also signals discipline in other areas of life. The way a man handles his emotions often mirrors the way he handles his work, his commitments, and his personal challenges. A man who can remain calm under pressure in relationships likely handles stress at work with the same steadiness. This consistency builds respect because it shows that he is not simply performing in one area while crumbling in another. That kind of integrity is magnetic because it feels dependable. In many cases, composure draws people closer without the man even trying. It is an unspoken signal that he does not need to force connection or chase approval. He is not desperate to be understood at every moment, nor is he threatened by disagreement. This makes him stand out in a world where many are quick to react, quick to defend, and slow to listen. The quiet strength of composure leaves room for others to approach him because they sense they will not be met with emotional chaos, but with reason, patience, and understanding. And there is another dimension. When a man's composure is rooted in a higher sense of purpose, it takes on a depth that cannot be shaken by temporary frustrations. He does not measure every moment by whether it pleases him or flatters his ego. Instead, he views each moment as an opportunity to respond in alignment with his values. This kind of depth allows him to walk away from unnecessary arguments, to listen even when he feels misunderstood, and to hold his ground without raising his voice. Neediness is one of the quickest ways to drain the life out of a relationship. It does not appear all at once. It creeps in quietly through small compromises of self-worth, through subtle changes in behavior where a man begins to revolve his life around another person's approval. When a man's sense of identity starts depending on whether someone is pleased with him, he places his emotional stability in the hands of another. That transfer of control is not only exhausting for him, but also unattractive to the very person he seeks to draw closer. Freedom from neediness begins when a man learns to anchor his worth in something deeper than human opinion. When a man is free from neediness, he no longer requires constant reassurance to feel valuable. He does not depend on a partner's mood to determine his own mood. This does not mean he is indifferent to others' feelings. Rather, it means his sense of self is not fragile or easily shaken. He can remain consistent regardless of whether he is being praised or criticized. That kind of stability is powerful because it tells others that they are dealing with someone who knows who he is apart from their approval. Women are naturally drawn to this quality because it signals strength and security. A man who is not needy is a man who is not desperate. Desperation is a form of pressure. It pushes others away because it makes them feel responsible for someone else's emotional survival. On the other hand, a man who is content and complete within himself removes that burden from others. He becomes someone others want to be around because being with him is refreshing rather than draining. Freedom from neediness also changes the way a man communicates. When he is not driven by fear of losing someone's affection, he can speak honestly without bending every word to please. He can say no when necessary, set healthy boundaries, and express his true thoughts without being terrified of rejection. This kind of authenticity is rare, and rare qualities are always noticed. A woman is far more likely to respect a man who stands firm in his convictions than one who constantly changes himself to fit her expectations. Another mark of this freedom is the ability to give without expecting something in return. Neediness often disguises itself as generosity, doing good things for someone, but secretly expecting constant affirmation or reciprocation. When that affirmation doesn't come, resentment grows. A man who is free from neediness gives because it is part of his nature, not because he is hoping to buy love or approval. His kindness does not carry the hidden weight of obligation. This creates an atmosphere of trust because the other person knows they are not being manipulated emotionally. Such freedom is not achieved by pretending not to care. True detachment from neediness is not emotional numbness, it is emotional wholeness. It comes from knowing your values so deeply that you do not need to cling to others to feel complete. This wholeness allows a man to enjoy closeness without being consumed by it. He can love fully while still maintaining his individuality. He can be attentive without losing his own priorities, affectionate without abandoning his purpose. In many relationships, neediness is what causes imbalance. When one person constantly seeks validation, the other begins to feel crowded. Space becomes scarce, and the relationship suffocates under the weight of one-sided dependency. A man who is free from neediness knows how to give space without fear. He understands that space is not the same as distance, and that a healthy relationship can breathe only when both people have room to grow. This freedom also makes him unpredictable in the best way. Neediness makes people overly predictable because they shape every move to avoid conflict or rejection. But when a man is grounded in his own identity, he is willing to act according to what is right, not simply what is safe. He can take risks, pursue his goals, and walk away from unhealthy situations without being paralyzed by fear of being alone. That self-assurance is compelling because it shows that he chooses to be in a relationship, not out of necessity, but out of desire. The irony is that when a man no longer chases after approval, approval often follows him naturally. People are drawn to those who do not demand to be noticed because their confidence creates curiosity. A woman will feel a greater pull toward a man who can stand on his own than toward one who depends on her for his sense of meaning. The absence of neediness creates an environment where attraction grows because the connection is built on choice, not desperation. Self-control is one of the most underestimated qualities in a man. It has a profound and almost magnetic influence. It is the ability to restrain impulses, to think before reacting, and to choose the higher path even when the lower one is easier. In a world where quick tempers, impulsive decisions, and unchecked emotions are common, a man who exercises self-control stands out immediately. He becomes a rare presence, calm where others are chaotic, patient where others are rash, disciplined where others are careless. This distinction is what draws people, especially women, toward him. There is a certain mystery in not always knowing what a man will do, not because he is erratic, but because he is deliberate. When a man has self-control, he does not allow his words to escape in anger or his actions to be dictated by the mood of the moment. He takes time to weigh the consequences before he speaks or acts. That pause, sometimes just a few seconds, communicates volumes about his character. It shows that he is not a slave to emotion, but a master over it. In relationships, this mastery creates trust. A woman feels secure with a man who she knows will not erupt in thoughtless rage or collapse in the face of frustration. Self-control also adds to the depth of attraction because it preserves a sense of mystery. In a world of oversharing, where many people reveal everything about themselves instantly, a man who holds back and reveals himself gradually builds intrigue. He does not feel the need to blurt out every thought or express every emotion at once. This does not mean he is hiding who he is, but that he understands the value of pacing, of letting trust and intimacy grow over time rather than forcing them. This controlled revelation of himself keeps others wanting to know more. The mystery of self-control is especially evident in how a man handles temptation. Whether it is the temptation to speak a harsh word, to indulge in something harmful, or to take an easier but dishonest path, self-control gives him the power to say no when it matters most. That ability to deny himself in the short term for the sake of long-term integrity sets him apart. It communicates that he is not ruled by his environment but by his principles. A man like this cannot be easily manipulated because his actions are guided by conviction rather than fleeting desire. This kind of discipline is not just attractive, it is inspiring. When a man demonstrates self-control, it encourages those around him to rise to the same standard. People feel calmer, safer, and more stable in his presence because they know he will not make reckless decisions that endanger trust or peace. In a relationship, this fosters an environment where disagreements can be resolved without fear of explosive reactions. Even in moments of intense pressure, his measured approach becomes a stabilizing force. A man with self-control also understands the power of silence. There are times when saying nothing speaks louder than any argument could. He knows when to hold back his opinion, when to let a moment pass without escalating it, and when to wait for a more appropriate time to address an issue. This patience shows wisdom, and wisdom is always magnetic. A woman will notice that such a man is not trying to win every small battle. He is playing for something greater, the health and strength of the relationship itself. Self-control extends beyond words and emotions. It shapes the way a man manages his habits, time, and goals. He is disciplined in how he works toward what matters most to him, which adds to his aura of purpose. Women are drawn to men who are not easily distracted from their mission, who can delay gratification to achieve something meaningful. That sense of commitment and focus makes him stand out in a culture that often chooses comfort over challenge. Interestingly, self-control does not make a man rigid or joyless. On the contrary, it allows him to enjoy life more fully because he is not constantly cleaning up the messes caused by unchecked impulses. He can enter relationships without the weight of regrets caused by words spoken in anger or promises broken in weakness. He can be spontaneous when he chooses, but that spontaneity is a choice, not a compulsion. This balance of discipline and freedom makes him both dependable and exciting. There is also a spiritual dimension to self-control. A man who governs himself well is often connected to something greater than himself, a higher standard that informs his decisions. This foundation gives him the strength to endure moments of testing without giving in. He does not crumble under pressure because his choices are rooted in values that do not shift with emotion. This steadfastness deepens the sense of mystery around him. People may not fully understand what drives him, but they feel the weight of it in his presence. There is a profound difference between a man who lives solely for himself and a man whose life is guided by something greater than his own comfort, desires, or ambitions. When a man draws his direction, strength, and identity from a higher source, he carries an unshakable steadiness that cannot be manufactured by charm, status, or appearance. His life is not built on shifting emotions or fleeting approval. It is anchored in something eternal and unchanging. This gives him a sense of purpose that is visible in the way he speaks, works, and relates to others. People can sense that his life is not random, that there is an order, a conviction, and a depth to his choices that set him apart. Women are naturally drawn to this kind of man, often without being able to fully explain why. There is a certain assurance in knowing that the man you are connected to is not easily swayed by temptation, discouragement, or the pressures of the crowd. When his values come from a higher standard, his decisions are not made on a whim. He has a direction that does not depend on immediate gratification or public opinion. Even in moments of uncertainty, he moves forward with confidence because his compass is not broken by changing circumstances. Living from a higher source also affects the way a man carries himself in relationships. He does not look to others to fill the deepest voids in his heart, because those needs are already met from within. This frees him from placing unfair expectations on the people he loves. He does not demand that someone else constantly affirm him, rescue him, or define his worth. Instead, he can give freely without calculating how much he will receive in return. This kind of love is rare because it flows from abundance rather than from emptiness. A man who lives this way is not desperate for attention because his identity is already secure. He is not obsessed with controlling outcomes because he trusts in the wisdom of the higher source he follows. This trust makes him less reactive, less anxious, and more patient. People around him notice that he does not panic when things go wrong, nor does he lose himself when things go right. He carries a balance that comes from knowing that his worth is not at the mercy of life's ups and downs. There is also a deep attractiveness in the way this kind of man pursues his mission. He has goals, but they are not shallow or self-serving. His ambition is not fueled by ego alone, but by the desire to accomplish something that matters beyond himself. Whether it is providing for his family, helping others, or building something of lasting value, his pursuits have a weight to them that makes them inspiring. Women feel a natural pull toward a man who is not wasting his life on trivial pursuits, but is engaged in something that brings meaning and impact. Living from a higher source also gives a man the courage to stand alone when necessary. He does not compromise his convictions just to blend in or be accepted. If a situation requires him to take an unpopular stance, he can do it without resentment or arrogance, because his loyalty is not to the approval of the crowd, but to the truth he lives by. This quiet strength often commands respect, even from those who disagree with him. People instinctively admire someone who will not sell out his principles for temporary comfort. His connection to a higher source also brings humility. While he is confident in his direction, he is not arrogant about it. He understands that his strength is not entirely his own. It is drawn from something greater. This keeps him grounded and approachable, able to admit mistakes and grow from them. A man like this does not have to pretend to be perfect because his identity is not built on the illusion of flawlessness. Such a man becomes a stabilizing force in the lives of others. When storms come, he is not thrown off course. When successes arrive, he does not lose his head in pride. His steady rhythm of life makes him someone others can lean on without fear that he will crumble. In a relationship, this creates an environment of deep trust because a woman knows that his commitment to her is not just based on fleeting emotions, but on a higher calling that guides every choice he makes. There is a certain kind of presence that cannot be faked, a quiet confidence that speaks without words. It is not loud, it is not boastful, and it does not draw attention by force. Yet it has a way of making people lean in, curious and drawn, wanting to know more. This type of confidence does not announce itself. It simply exists steady and unshaken. It comes from within, built over time through self-respect, discipline, and an understanding of one's own worth. A man who carries this kind of presence does not need to chase anyone, because his very being invites others to come closer. Quiet confidence is attractive because it is rooted in security. A man who is secure in who he is does not feel the need to prove himself at every turn. He does not overcompensate with arrogance or false bravado. He knows his strengths without flaunting them, and he accepts his weaknesses without being ashamed of them. This balance creates a sense of authenticity that others can feel. People, and women especially, are drawn to authenticity because it feels safe and trustworthy. When a man is not trying to be someone he is not, it frees others to be themselves as well. This kind of confidence is not aggressive, yet it is unshakable. It shows itself in subtle ways, how he carries himself, how he listens without feeling the need to dominate every conversation, how he is unafraid of silence. In relationships, this communicates that he is not desperate for validation, nor is he easily rattled by distance or uncertainty. He is present when he chooses to be, but he is also perfectly fine standing alone when necessary. That ability to be content in his own company creates a magnetic pull because it signals that his happiness is not entirely dependent on anyone else. One of the most powerful aspects of quiet confidence is that it creates space. Many men chase after affection, constantly seeking attention and reassurance. But a man with this kind of confidence does the opposite. He gives room for the other person to step forward. He does not smother, he does not cling, and he does not rush to fill every silence with words or actions. Instead, he allows moments to breathe. That breathing room often causes others to lean in, curious and interested, because they sense they are not being pressured or manipulated. This absence of pressure makes his presence more valuable. When a man does not constantly demand time, energy, or emotional investment, being with him feels refreshing instead of exhausting. A woman is more likely to pursue him when she senses that his attention is freely given, not desperately sought. The pursuit becomes mutual, and in that mutuality, the connection grows deeper and more genuine. Quiet confidence also brings with it a level of consistency. This is not a man whose mood rises and falls dramatically with the opinions of others. He is steady, and that steadiness makes people feel safe around him. In moments of stress or conflict, his calm demeanor reassures those in his presence. He does not lose control to prove a point, nor does he collapse under emotional weight. This makes him someone others naturally turn to for stability, because they know he will not add to the chaos, but will help anchor them in it. Part of what makes this confidence so inspiring is that it is not loud, yet it cannot be ignored. People notice it in the way he handles setbacks without complaint, in the way he responds to provocation without hostility, in the way he remains composed when others are desperate for reaction. These small but significant moments show that his confidence is not situational. It is part of his character. And because it is real, it cannot be taken away by circumstance. There is also a deeper strength in this kind of presence. It comes from knowing that one's life has purpose beyond any single relationship or season. When a man lives with direction, when he is committed to something greater than himself, he naturally exudes a sense of certainty. Others feel it even if they cannot fully define it. This kind of man is not wandering aimlessly, hoping someone else will give him meaning. Instead, he already walks in meaning, and anyone who joins him is simply stepping into the flow of something already in motion. Quiet confidence draws pursuit because it shifts the dynamic. He does not chase, yet he is not unavailable. He is approachable without being overly accessible, warm without being needy, open without being exposed to every influence. This balance is rare, and rarity breeds value. When a woman encounters a man like this, she senses that she has found something uncommon. She is compelled to move toward him, not because he has demanded it, but because something about his presence invites her, without a single word spoken.